7 chapters, huh? Light work. Before we hop in this blitz breakdown of the 7 chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen that I missed, please do me a favor, leave your own thoughts on these chapters in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got a pencil and yeah, we're gonna do 7 chapters, but a chapter in 7 minutes, because essentially I'm way behind on Jujutsu Kaisen simply because it fell off. Not it fell off. I fell off keeping up with it. And instead of flooding your inboxes with 7 separate videos, I decided to just, you know what, let me just do a little blitz style, 7 minutes, 7 stuff like that. Also, a friend asked me to do this just because he wanted to see how I would review something regularly if I didn't have the drawing in the background. So let's do it and hop into chapter. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me get the timer out. So I got 7 minutes, 7 chapters. And he said I can go under 7 minutes. Let's see. All right. So the 7 minutes begin with chapter 159, which is known as, I started the timer, but I'm not at the beginning of the chapter. I'm already down 5 seconds. No! Help me. Jujutsu Kaisen, Judgment, 159 Judgment. Let's hop into it. So I actually really like this chapter, mainly because it's like its own independent story. Hold on, let me see if I can pronounce his name right, because I don't want to get it wrong. Because I think this character is actually really, really interesting for what it is. Hiromi Higuruma, Culling game player, and this is the guy who is one of the few with 100 points, but this is the backstory before he has those 100 points. And the interesting thing is that we open up this chapter following this man through his day-to-day, or at least his job, and he's a criminal defense lawyer. And the interesting thing is that he seems to have like this almost attachment to all the things he does, despite wanting to do the right thing. And we follow this man through this sad journey of one of his clients, one of his victims. Well, a victim of the trial system in the world. And it's amazing to see how through constant repeat experiences, ones that are hinted at, one that's shown, and another one that's implied, I'm not even sure we get to see the end to, unless it's supposed to. The thing is, when I initially read this chapter, I was confused on whether or not the guy at the end and the guy at the beginning were the same person. Like, was that weird to anyone else either? Like, I was looking at it, and the guy in the beginning who he's talking to, who has a cat, did that case ever really get resolved? Like, let's see, is that the same guy at the end with the shaved head? But it looks like that's a flashback to a previous. But then we cut forward, and then this guy. I mean, I guess it may be the same guy. He looks way different with the hair shaved. But regardless of that, the thing is, in the end, it's all worthless. And what that does is finally break Higuruma. And I appreciate the fact that this character otherwise was a completely moral person. There was absolutely nothing wrong with him. In fact, he saw through the failures of the justice system. Was like, there are cheats, there are holes, there are ways that you will pretty much always lose. You are guilty from the moment you are on trial. But he wants to fight against that. He wants to fight for justice. But in almost a Kira sort of way, justice isn't always dealt, and it falls upon certain people with power to deal justice in their own way. And we end the chapter with him slamming his mallet on the ground, which he actually, no, not on the ground, but on the table, and a mallet that I don't even think he had before. He conjures a mallet, slams it on the ground, and declares that he's having a retrial. And this is after the person, who I'm assuming is the same guy who was an expected murderer, or that was thought to be a murderer, was found guilty in the retrial. And I do like how this is portrayed, mainly for the fact that it shows off that even the best men can be broken. And it's something that Jujutsu Kaisen is very much about. It's definitely about breaking down characters after building them up, or even not building them up very much at all. Like Higuruma, I keep getting afraid of saying his name wrong. Higuruma is not necessarily a person that we had much build up to. We just had this one chapter. We just met him and we heard about him earlier. But seeing him in this light recontextualizes him as this super scary, strong sorcerer dude who had a bunch of powers and was killing a whole bunch of people, to a guy who's just trying to find justice. But after suffering for so much, his justice and his view on it has become warped, and he believes that the system won't do it, so I will because I have the power to. That's actually a super amazing thing to see Akutami tackle, especially in this way in particular, where it's such a quick yet fluid story. Like, once again, we had no idea of this guy other than the fact that he was a guy with 100 points, but this chapter entirely recontextualized him into a good person gone bad for the sake of really justice. And it's interesting to see how I'm excited to see how Higuruma interacts with other people who may have their own views of justice. Like, Kenjaku has his own view of justice. Itadori has his own view of justice, which is something we may see sooner or later. Megami has his own view of justice. Like, all these different characters have their own similar views, and Higuruma, being a guy who was literally based in the justice system, and I'm intrigued to see how he interacts with everyone else, essentially, because I feel like it's going to be super amazing. However, that's it. That's really all I have to say about that chapter. I would go more in depth. I guess I can talk a little bit about the artwork. I love this weird, like, if you'll notice, this chapter pretty much until the very end, like, this is just a paneling thing in Jujutsu Kaisen. Akutami was very, very good to keep the paneling very boxy, very straight, very locked and stuff like that. There's nothing really all too fancy about the paneling, because this isn't supposed to be something fancy. It's supposed to be following a man through his regular life. And then right towards the end, right where everything starts to snap, that's when the panels go crazy. When the hammer slams down, everything shifts and judges and flips and falls. And then we get the final shot, which is on a tilted angle, where we see his stand. I don't know JoJo's theme off the top of my head, I'm sorry. And we see the panels shifted because the whole world has shifted because he got this power. I think that's very good detail or paneling. That's a good paneling decision by Akutami in terms of just creating scenes like that. Very, very good. But solid chapter. I'd say, despite me not having much to say about it, it's a 10 out of 10 chapter for how much it does in such a little time. Great work. Now time to move on to chapter 160. Culling. Restart the timer, and we open up with, interestingly enough, Kenjaku. And we see Kenjaku speaking with someone that we haven't seen in a really, really, really long time, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a sip of water real quick. Just finished off that pour bottle. But we see Kenjaku talking to someone, and he's explaining that, oh, by the way, I'm a sorcerer that was chosen for the Culling game, and you're probably going to want to go. Not going to lie here. So let's get it moving. And it seems like Kenjaku has some sort of manipulation over dreams, and it's weird, like dreams and sleep. Like, he is somehow able to guide her out of there purely through the fact of, like, apparently the space between dream and reality is a curse, is what he says. But what does that mean? And I mean, cursed energy, he can likely manipulate it. Like, does this mean, is he using a cursed spirit to do this? And at the same time, he's actually literally walking her out. As we see, she's still sleepwalking, but in the background, we see this massive beast just like out here ravaging places and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's a very interesting thing, and I wonder if it's going to be brought up again, or if it's just for this one-off thing. Like, is Kenjaku being able to like transport people in their sleep and stuff like that, is that going to be something that comes back, or is that just a one-off thing? It seems very specific. But I think the main thing in this chapter that everyone was like shocked and wondering about when it came out was obviously Kenjaku saying, all right, I almost forgot to tell you, thank you for getting along with my son. And then it is, like, to be fair, we've known it for a while now, but Kenjaku is directly Itadori's mother through means. But it's weird to actually it's weird for one Kenjaku to be so like calm and chilling. But I guess, because here's the thing, Kenjaku, unlike brain blanking, what was his name? Kenjaku, unlike Geto, doesn't necessarily hate regular humans, but he does think that sorcerers need to evolve, and he wants a new era of golden techniques. But it seems like Kenjaku is willing enough to spare people who aren't going to be part of that evolution. And I suppose that's because Kenjaku himself wants to evolve everybody. So having non-sorcerers die is pretty much pointless, because if he doesn't have any humans left, what's the point of evolving everybody through Tengen? So that's actually really, really cool to see Kenjaku in almost this like See, it sounds bad because he made the culling game, but at the same time, he's being a pretty decent person by letting everybody out. Worst comes to worst, like, I believe a rule in the culling game even is if you kill a non-sorcerer, you get a point. Meaning Kenjaku's actually willing to lower the point system or lower the point availability by taking people out of culling game areas, and at the same time he's allowing them the choice to stay. Like, he offers Sasaki the possibility to just stay in the barrier if she wants to, but no, she walked out. And we see that this is, well, Sasaki is the girl from the beginning of the series, and this is also the guy from the beginning of the series that were in the occult club with Yuji. So pretty darn cool. It's a nice callback for them to be specifically there, and it's cool to see the curtain. Like, the curtain really is just this dark, gigantic wall. And I'm wondering, so Kenjaku apparently is it confirmed that he made these himself? Because if so, that is insane amounts of cursed energy. That's just wild. I don't know the amount of cursed energy that must take to maintain. Like, notably, this thing is towering over trees, building. It's even bigger than mountains in the background. Like, this gigantic barrier is massive. The amount of cursed energy that must take to maintain is insane, and he's doing it just fine. But actually, no, wait a minute. You can have those cursed. No, people need to keep feeding power into it. Who's feeding power into those things? But regardless of that, we see that. Let me see. The end of the chapter goes on with these two. Well, no, with the group. We cut back to the group that's after the Hikari incident, and they try to they're looking for Angel. And I think it's pretty cool that they're still so focused on getting Gojo Sensei back. And now they're just like, well, we'll figure it out and get there. And apparently the whole goal is just to hop into random colonies and figure it out. I mean, I guess they have no other option. It's not like they could just easily find Angel. So they're all splitting up into different colonies and going on their own. The only person who's staying back is, I'm still not sure how to pronounce their name, Kirara? Is that how you say their name? They're staying outside in order to watch over everything, because if everyone goes in, there's gonna really have no way to communicate, and at least Kirara could like keep a connection open between the rest of them. And the thing is, both Megumi and Itadori are gonna go within the same barrier, while Hikari, Panda, and obviously Yuta are going in their own unique barriers. And it's interesting. I'm actually really intrigued to see what's going to happen with our other characters, because obviously they're going to get into fights, they're going to get into combat, but right now we're only focused on Megumi and Itadori. But obviously Yuta is a threat that's going to be just running around. Maki may figure out about the culling game and hop in a barrier herself. We could possibly see Hikari actually use his curse technique and go out full power against some person. Panda could get an amp. I don't know. Like, did we ever get that third final core that's in him? I know it's supposed to be like a human, but I think it's supposed to be like the principal's son, but I'm not sure. There's so many possibilities that could happen with them all being in unique barriers. So I'm wondering how long it's going to take for us to actually see them hop into battle. Yuta especially. I'm not going to lie. I really want to see Yuta fight, because him fighting Itadori was kind of a curb stomp. So I actually want to see him fight someone comparable to him. But then we see that everyone is hopping right on into the barrier, and they're all willing to enter, and they leap in. Ooh, I'm getting close. I got 6 minutes and 30 seconds in. But then we hop into the next chapter, which is known as Reset the Timer. Where's the chapter title? Is that another chapter title? Oh no. Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 161. Tokyo. Oh, I didn't start the time. I'll cut myself off 30 seconds. Chapter 161, Tokyo Number 1 Colony, Part 1. And we open up with this random group of people, and it's this one lady waiting for a signal, and this one dude with a cap on waiting to give the signal. And we see this lady transform her hair into a rocket. I'm assuming using cursed energy, and bada bing, bada boom. I don't really know. But then we cut over to Itadori and Megumi, and it seems like that a modern day sorcerer embroiled in this like Tsukumai would probably be happy to exchange information. Counterattacks with Kenjaku, Haim Kodane inside the barrier. I'll admit, I didn't reread all of them. I'm kind of a little bit behind, so I'm kind of like skimming through them right now as I review. But maybe if you should look on the calling game, would like to consult the rules. No, this is necessary. Itadori, we need to get first consider. So interestingly enough, they're talking about like the possible dangers of the culling game for people in general, from like new brand sorcerers like Samuki, or I'm not actually sure how to say his sister's name, but Samuki and people like that, and how it's possible that new gen sorcerers will be more willing to team up than the savage sorcerers and cursed spirits from around 200 years ago, because obviously they don't necessarily want to fight that badly, but they may have been stuck in the Culling game anyway. And then they both walk into the barrier, and they're completely separated. They're just on completely, like, Itadori's literally falling from the sky somewhere. And the lady from earlier wastes no hesitation. The moment she's given the signal, she just zooms from a whole building away and smashes into Itadori. And she does some damage. Like, notably, she smashes Itadori, I think, literally through 2 buildings, and then puts him back in free fall. And Itadori notably takes no damage. Like, Hakari was smacking this man Itadori up so hard that he was like bleeding everywhere, spurting blood, getting knocked over. Meanwhile, Itadori gets hard blitz tackled through a whole bunch of buildings, and he's just like, whew, golly gee willikers, that actually kind of hurt a little bit. No, it didn't even hurt him. Like, he's literally, his clothes aren't even ripped. That's how little damage he took from it, and he instantly recovers. And Itadori, like, I love how Itadori has like no hesitation. Like, the moment he lands, he gets some solid footing, he's like, some swing. And he instantly threw a rock, which he infused with cursed energy. I'm assuming that's actually even crazier now that I think about it. Because if he didn't grab that rock off the roof, as he was being slammed through a building, he literally grabbed one of the pieces of debris, loaded it with cursed energy, and pitched that thing so darn hard that it busted her engine and she straight crashed. And then we get to see this other dude pop up. And he's like super, and he's always like, all right, whatever. Since I couldn't ask the last one about Hiroguma, I'll just ask this one. I love how straightforward it is. Like, there's no hesitation in Itadori's mind. Once he gets a goal in there, he's like, I am the cog. I will get this done. Let's keep it pushing. And he runs on in. And notably, this guy, actually, the guy with the cap, recognizes Itadori. He's like, wait a minute. Is that you, my boy? But then on top of that, we cut over to Megami, who is dealing with this random lady who somehow just is there, I guess. Well, to be fair, Itadori also got smacked randomly too. But then, wait a second, question. If everyone who walks into the barrier falls from the sky, I get Itadori could probably survive that. He's super durable. Megami, he has new way. How does a regular sorcerer just... I mean, they can reinforce themselves with cursed energy, but I feel like, no offense to the Jujutsu world, but I feel like a fall from that height would still kill people. I'm not gonna lie, like, even sorcerers, because not everyone's like Gojo level, Toji level, like these insane levels of strength and durability. Like, if you can't fly or have some sort of reaction, if you just go falling, I feel like you may just be done, son. But both of these two are on this straight interaction. Like, okay, where is Hiroguma? This woman apparently knows who he is, supposedly, and this lady who just attacked Fushiguro is like, yo, just be my knight, follow me, protect me, and we'll do good. And I love Megami, like, I love how about the business he is. He's like, fine, whatever, I'll follow you, just take me there or I'll kill you. So walk in front of me. And we see that Megami, like, he's about that action. He literally says, yo, not gonna lie, Itadori and me, we are not the same man. I got no qualms scoring 100 points. Like, that's a good thing. I actually really do appreciate that about Megami, because he's like, sorry, bro, my sister's on the line. Morals be forgotten. I'm just gonna get it done one way or another. Like, he's taking the nice route right now. And I'm assuming, like, the moment this woman back crosses him, it's literally just gonna be like, well, divine dog, take her throat out. That'll be it. I'm super excited to see where this dynamic duo goes. I'm not gonna lie, even though I know where this dynamic duo goes in a little bit. But yeah, that's enough with that chapter. It's once again, very much a transitionary chapter. It was like to get people a little bit more action, I'm assuming, because I know a lot of people were complaining, Jujutsu Kaisen's doing too much talking. It's been explaining too much. And I don't know, I kind of low-key like some explanations, especially in Jujutsu Kaisen, where I barely understand anything on the first read. So I think it's pretty darn good. But then we're done with chapter 161, and we move on to chapter 162, which is known as Tokyo Number 1, Colony Part 2, Part Dose. And we see Itadori versus this helicopter dude. And this helicopter dude manages to deflect the rock that managed to take out his wife's engine and send her to the ground. He just blocks it with his spinning helicopter hat thing, I'm a jig. And notably, the thing I love, like, oh shit, I forgot to reset this again. But the thing I love about like superhumans, especially the way Akutame draws them, like it very much reminds me of the Finelus from Magi, in the way that he just straight up allows these superhumans to be superhuman. Like Itadori literally runs off the top of a building and just standing leaps at this man who's flying in midair, and then proceeds to hard drag him down through multiple buildings. Like that is, like, obviously it's not anything on the scale of like I'm destroying mountains with a swing, or I'm out here wiping out multiverses and stuff like that. My punch could shatter creation. Like it's not anything like that. But in terms of sheer like physicality, like if I saw a dude do what Itadori just did, especially with this straight demonic level face, I would be terrified. Not gonna lie, like Itadori is looking at this man with nothing but pure contempt as he drags him through a building. Like Itadori just must have faith. Like if this was just a regular dude, or even just like I feel like an average sorcerer getting slammed through a building like this, for this guy to take minimal damage is impressive. And it seems like Itadori couldn't do that much damage, and the only way that this guy he's fighting will attack him with is the propeller. And Itadori takes notice of this. So he's like, well, if he has no other way to attack, I'll just chill on the low ground because I don't want to give him the high ground. Obi-Wan taught me well. But then we see that he, like, the propeller guy wastes no time. He has no care because the moment he sees that Itadori decides to retreat underground, or no, retreat into a building, he's like, well, I will legitimately just slice you alive, and proceeds to turn towards it. He literally says, I'm going to make a smoothie out of you. And Itadori is straight up like, it's actually pretty crazy, because Itadori not only manages to perfectly figure out like the way the curse technique works, like he, based off the one interaction with the woman, manages to figure out, okay, there is a vital point on here. That means that they can be weakened if hit in the right spot. So as long as I punch this dude hard enough in the right area, he'll bust open. And Itadori very much so swings, he charges up and punches the helicopter dude so hard in the head that he literally, his propeller stops, his nose starts bleeding, and he gets one shot. Well, not necessarily one shot. He takes so much damage, which is actually insane, but his propeller does manage to cut Itadori's hand open, and the guy starts laughing. And I don't know why this guy got so confident. He's like, ha ha ha, did your fist break? I guess that means you're the loser of this. And Itadori just hard punts him that easily. And Itadori is like, yeah, you know what? Not gonna lie. This fist is just fine. It's a little bit bloody. Licks it clean. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't do that. But he does just be like, okay, now that I've won, who the heck is Higuruma? And he ends up getting a save or an assist from the dude that gave the signal to attack him. And this apparently is, well, actually, do they cover that in this chapter? I don't even think, yeah, they don't even cover that in this chapter, but this dude knows Itadori. And apparently, like, the dude apparently does know Itadori because he's famous. And it's because Itadori was known as the Tiger of West Junior High. And like, I mean, I guess we never got much elaboration on Itadori's backstory, but I guess it also makes sense for Itadori to just be a smoke demon. Like, I guess this is just a thing that was common, because apparently he was known as just a warrior roaming around the world, destroying people, which is simultaneously hilarious and concerning. Shout out to Itadori. But then we get to see that we see that Megami like figures out that this lady doesn't seem to actually be a sorcerer from the past. She seems to be like from the modern era, and she apparently is mainly here just because, well, it's kill or be killed. I'm a sorcerer from here. I gotta survive. I can't spend time trying to figure out whether or not killing is wrong. I just gotta do what I gotta do. And it seems like she's an example for Megami at least, and for the reader to be a catalyst. Like what Kenjaku wanted to happen is happening. Sorcerers of the past in this natural environment, perfect for the evolution of cursed techniques, is forcing modern sorcerers who've had time to develop and create new techniques to evolve and grow and fight each other, and the strongest techniques will come out of this. Especially since we know that cursed techniques typically grow alongside people when they're in stress, when they are in high risk scenarios, and when they're close to death. Like take a look at Maki, take a look at Yuta, take a look at Gojo, like even heck, take a look at Megami. He unlocked domain expansion, even if it wasn't perfect, when he was near death. So by putting them in the situation, the evolution just seems pretty darn common. I think that's cool. And the thing is, we get to see that these two guides for our main characters both give a different answer for where Higuruma is. And for Megami's guide, it's Shinjuku. And for Itadori's guide, it's Ikebukuro. And it's, interestingly enough, I feel like obviously I know which one is the right answer now, but the funny thing is, you can literally just tell which one is telling the truth and which one isn't. The Amai is telling the truth because like he just looks flat out, he isn't saying anything. Meanwhile, this lady, whatever her name is, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember her name. Let me see, can I find it? Stop calling me you. I forget what her name is. I'm not going to bother looking for it because I'm running out of time. But yeah, she's obviously like feminine because she's smiling and has the evil blank eyes. Bada bing, bada boom. Megami's going to have to fight somebody else, but that's fine. Good chapter, solid. I do like the combat in this chapter and how, like, once again, just how superhuman Itadori feels and how great that is. But I'm running out of time. Okay, I got to reset. Reset. Next chapter. It's time. Finish it. Chaos. Reset. Okay, bam. So we have, oh, I forgot. That wasn't the end of the chapter for the last one, but they're going to go fight. Yeah, great. Oh, next chapter. All right. So the next chapter is known as Tokyo #1, Colony Part 3. So see, it kind of makes sense to cover this all in one video. These are all just consecutive parts. But in actuality, we get to see the past that Amai knows Itadori from. And apparently, while these guys are just randomly bullying some dude, Itadori just pulls up and just body bags all of them. Like, he puts the whole group in a pack so easily. And then he just casually looks at Amai and is like, alright, so what you trying to get into? And Amai's like, who, me? Ooh, could it be me? It's not me, not today, not right now. Could it be me? And then we cut back over to Megami and random lady. I'm so sorry, I don't remember her name, but we see that these two are guiding people to their respective fates. And the interesting thing is that this Higuruma guy, at least in the case of Amai, he let Haba go instead of killing him for points, but he apparently beat Haba to the pulp. Like, that's actually especially considering how his, actually it makes sense considering how his curse technique works. We'll get to that soon when we get to chapter 165. But then it seems like Amai apologizes because, like, he knows Itadori's gonna lose this fight. But then we get to see this other random dude who's like dressed in paper, and Itadori just Megami gets ready to fight. He pulls out Divine Dog. He literally does what I said he was going to do. Well, to be fair, I read this already, but I didn't even remember him pulling out Divine Dog. But he literally says he literally does what I said he was going to do, and just pulls out Divine Dog and is like, I go for the jugular. And that's sort of the end of this chapter. I'm not going to lie, because we cut to Higuruma just chilling in the bathtub, as one does, with his full suit on. And these two have a conversation, and Higuruma like goes on to the stereotypical lawyer thing. Like, he's like, oh, by the way, I'm a lawyer, so talking to me costs 5,000 yen every half hour. And then he's kidding. Like, I actually do really like Higuruma here. Like, he developed a much more playful personality over the time that he's been here. So Itadori is like, whoa, wait, I can reason with this dude. But then Higuruma's like, nah, I'm just not really my vibe. I'm not gonna lie to you, Itadori. And Itadori's like, pardon you? And Higuruma's like, well, this isn't like necessarily a bad thing. It'd be like that when it be like that sometimes. It's something I appreciate. The Culling game allows us to make rules. It allows us to use our power appropriately. And then Itadori is like, well, if you don't want to end it, I have to beat your behind. So the two get ready to fight, and Higuruma steps out the bathtub and has his little stand falling right behind him. That ends that chapter. Then we get into Tokyo #1 Colony Part 4, and it opens up with Higuruma and Itadori getting ready to battle, but the moment Itadori lunges in for an attack, or he doesn't even get ready for an attack, Higuruma instantly opens up domain expansion. And the interesting thing is that he activated the curse. Itadori wanted to attack Higuruma before he could activate the curse technique of the domain, but he couldn't actually reach him. And apparently it's because the binding vow of this domain is that neither party is able to wield any violence against each other. Like, they aren't allowed to throw hands, unfortunately. And this means that Itadori has to be a bit more patient. But then Judge Man is like allowed. It's weird to think, like, he calls it Judge Man. This is such a weirdly complicated process, but essentially his domain expansion allows him to apply rules and stuff like that. Like, he has a random court verdict, he can give defense, there's offense, stuff like that. Like, essentially every single person who goes into the domain has possibility of becoming a defendant, or no, is naturally the defendant against Higuruma and Judge Man, and Higuruma is the judge, which essentially makes his domain still in his favor and at all costs, because it doesn't seem like there's any way that Higuruma could become the victim or like the person who's on trial. He's the judge at all times, but the Judge Man behind him. And we see Itadori go through this really long process of trying to figure out that apparently he only went into the pachinko shop to take a dump. And that was instantly proven false by a picture of him standing elsewhere at... It's interesting. This is an image from a security camera at a cash exchange window near Magi Vegas on the day in question. Pairing this with a photo and your own admission, entering the premises casts the story into doubt. Bada bing, bada boom. That's it. And we see that Judge Man has his own like weird, like court breaking thing, which goes against what Higuruma wanted, but that's about it. And then we get to see Higuruma cast the verdict upon... Judge Man cast the verdict upon Itadori, and Itadori gets something confiscated from him. And what gets confiscated from him is actually his cursed energy. He cannot control it anymore. And because it begins Higuruma versus Itadori in a proper fashion. And there we go. That's the end of that chapter. I'm going to admit, I really am blazing through these chapters, but it's because like I don't want to spend too much time on them, because to be fair, not exactly that much happens in them, but at the same time, it is still really cool. Final chapter, 165. We learned about Higuruma actually being pretty much Gary Stu. Like, he's perfectly good at everything because he has insane potential in all aspects, but especially in cursed energy. His talent as a sorcerer is insane. Obviously, because while he's been a sorcerer for at most like a couple days, really. Let's take a look. Does it even say? Like, he's been a sorcerer for at best a couple days. He managed to unlock domain expansion, figure out its properties, figure out how to use it properly, and know how to fight all in a couple days, because he's just built like that, because it's Higuruma. You can't sleep on him. But then we get to see that he somehow figured out the inner workings of cursed energy despite never actually encountering cursed energy. I guess he used Judge Man to manipulate. Like, there's so many interesting things that happen here. But then we get to see is that Higuruma isn't actually able to defeat Itadori, because Itadori is literally just that physically tough and fast due to what his biology makes him, which is naturally tough and fast. And Higuruma's like, well, if I can't just fight him directly, I'll just crush him with my full strength all at once. And bada bing, bada boom, it fails. Because Itadori, he's just that guy. And the thing is, like, these two do have, like, what is relatively a pitched fight. Like, Itadori is definitely on the back foot because he can't manifest any cursed energy, and Higuruma can alter the size of the hammer. But Higuruma just finds himself unable to break Itadori. But then we get to see Itadori just figure out one of the tricks of Judge Man is that he's, like, retrial. And the two end up back in the domain. And Itadori figures that, Judge Man, I'm built different. Let's do it. And Judge Man, like, he went from a pachinko shop to the Shibuya incident. And we actually get a solid day for the Shibuya incident. So that means relative to the timeline, we are about 3 months ahead I mean, that makes sense though. I'm pretty sure that was already established. But we're like 3 years ahead of Jujutsu Kaisen in terms of our modern timeline, which is a really cool distinction to have. Like, that's sort of like something that really never gets addressed in time periods. We always hear of 20XX, but no, we do get Yuji Itadori stands accused of mass murder in Shibuya on October 31st, 2018. Itadori's like, well, yeah, I did that. And then Judge Man deals out at the ultimate penalty, the death penalty. Guilty, confiscation, death penalty. And that's the end of the chapter. So these past chapters were really, really good. I'm not going to lie. I didn't go much in depth into them, mainly because they felt like almost their own continuous story up to this point. And I feel like trying to break down each one too individually would have been a little bit too much, but I'm glad I finally got it out. This will definitely be a more podcast style video. I don't think there's gonna be much editing. It may just be a black screen. And you may have just been listening to audio if you got through this long. I'm not gonna lie, because I need to get this video up. But that is it. I'm caught up to Jujutsu Kaisen. Regular reviews will start again. It's gonna be back to normal. They're gonna be dropping every Saturday or Friday, depending on my timing. And yeah, I'm happy to be caught back up. But thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Lag the Pencil, writing off.